Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. First question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I am Heidi Henderson with Engineered Tax Services. I am an executive here, and ultimately I am a tax consultant, but I specialize in federal tax incentives. So it's very much a niche market. We don't do tax returns or tax prep. I always kind of preface things with that because people say, well, I have a CPA and they're great. But we don't replace your CPA. We actually work alongside with CPAs and individuals and business owners on the consulting side. So very proactive and very consultative approach.
And very helpful, I might add, because I've helped connect you with a few. So yeah, it's good information. So thank you. Well, question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I love having differing perspectives and ideas in a team environment. My team includes multiple entrepreneurs who are always thinking outside the box, and they're brainstorming on how to improve and how to evolve. Especially today, you know, depending on when somebody's listening to this podcast, we're dealing with COVID-19, this pandemic. Our motto for the last couple of years has been adapt or die. And so we've really committed to taking time. We have it blocked on our calendars every 2 weeks for 1 hour. We have a brainstorming session, and it literally is our evolvement session. We do nothing. We don't talk about our current operational issues or problems we're having. We actually talk only about what are ideas, what are things that we could do to improve. Do we have ideas on new service lines we could add to our current model, what we're running into day to day on ways that we can improve and adapt, whether it's through technology, automation, you know, in a myriad of different ways. But that is one thing I love about working with a team is our ability to bounce ideas off of each other and to share those alternate perspectives and ideas.
That's a great idea to schedule time for brainstorming. That's great. Thank you. Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, engagement can be difficult. And one thing that I've always been very passionate about is understanding who is in our team, understanding personalities. We have found that for us, we created and built a culture statement. It's quite lengthy. It has multiple parts to it. But it has been tremendous for encouraging our team members to get engaged and to interact with each other. So what else we do is we have culture calls. Every month, we have a culture call. It's actually mandatory for everybody in our company. And we have all of our team members get on this call. We send out, 4 different invites so that it always works for, at least one time will work for everyone. And on those calls, we have a round table where we go around and we share examples of how the company culture has played out and been exemplified within our teams. So we want people to share experiences or share, not necessarily calling a specific person out and saying, oh, Heidi did something amazing the other day. It's not necessarily that, but it's about saying, our culture statement, it says that we are a team and we work together. And here is a situation where I had a problem and I was able to reach out to someone and, they pulled someone else in and we solved this problem and this is how. So to encourage and build upon that strong culture, the teamwork, the support, and respecting each other, it has really allowed kind of this round table discussion to get everyone involved, to get everyone committed to really living that out every day, to sticking to our culture. And, sort of putting people on the spot, in essence, is helping everyone get more engaged and have buy-in on that essentially the culture.
Wow, what a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. Question number 4, what other piece of advice would you give for leaders of teams?
What other piece of advice? There are a few things. One piece of advice would be, when running a team, I think you have to be a good listener. I think it's so important to be willing to listen and to open the table and to be respectful. So really understanding your team from a personal and a professional standpoint is really important for being a good listener. So if a leader understands the personality traits, if they understand their team's abilities and weaknesses of each individual, then, as a leader, we can better be able to create equal and respectful dialogue between the team, where everyone has a seat, everyone is heard, everyone is respected, and their opinions are valid and valued. So it's really imperative that the stage is set to be open and respectful for each other's perspectives and opinions. In teams, what happens is invariably you will have, a type A personality, or someone who's really extroverted and outgoing, and they have a lot of great ideas and they're going to voice that. But you may also have some people who are very introverted, or they're much more the individuals who want to observe the conversation. And it's so important to take the time to allow those people to be heard and to respect their opinions. Just because they may not be as assertive does not mean that they don't have value that they bring to the table. So that's really, for me as a leader, has been tremendous, for making sure that everyone has a voice, that we understand where everybody's strengths or weaknesses are, and we allow everyone to bring those to the table.
Wow, what great advice. That is outstanding. Thank you. Question number 5, what other successful team leaders, such as yourself, would you like to recognize, or maybe that have had an influence for the good in your life?
Oh, that's a great one. Oh, my goodness. In my career, there's a lot of individuals. Our founder and our CEO, Julio Gonzalez, has really been a great leader for us, because he is the ultimate entrepreneur. If we're really shooting for the stars, I have really found a lot of value in books. I love to read. Daniel Pink is a great author that many people might be familiar with, but he's written multiple books. One is To Sell Is Human. The next is called When, and another one, Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. I mean, that's another book that he has written. His books have been really insightful for me, because it helped me transition my thought process from thinking in technical terms. I mean, I'm an accountant by trade and by education. So in professional services, we tend to get kind of hung up on the technical aspects, and that's where we can fail as leaders, or we can fail as good communicators. So I know that his books have really helped me to really focus more on individuals, on mindset, on communication, emotional intelligence, and again, being a really good listener. Another person that I was recently introduced to that's in our local market in Utah, actually, her name is Sydney Jacks. And I had the pleasure to have a conversation with her this week. And I was so impressed, because she is actually a civil engineer, really phenomenal education, went into the engineering field and quickly realized that, like professional services, attorneys, engineers, accountants, it's also the space that I'm in, that what is lacking is people skills, leadership, and communication. And so Sydney has this incredible background and technical expertise, and yet she saw the need for something different and went out and created a program. She's got a successful business, but yet on the side created a program to actually go out and train professional services individuals to become better leaders, better communicators, and really realize that it's about being the interpersonal skills, the communication, the going out and communicating, and emotional intelligence with other people that we work with. So between reading books by Daniel Pink and someone like Sydney, I am so motivated by seeing people who are really proactive. They see a problem and they just jump out there to find a solution.
Those are great recommendations. Thank you for sharing those, because those sound like some great people. So thank you. Well, final question. Tell us about your first job.
Oh, boy. Well, I would probably have to refer to my first 2 jobs, I think. So my very first job, I think, is kind of funny. I was a cashier at a full-service car wash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which was kind of fun. I think I was 15 or 16. And I was in the little service area where people waited for their car. It was where they really did a lot of detailing. So it was a high service car wash. But my job was to kind of upsell and also offer great customer service. So that really started to get my mind thinking about how we care for people, how we serve people in any position. So that ties into my second job, which was actually at Nordstrom. And I will never forget the training that I went through when I got that job at Nordstrom, because they go through a pretty extensive training of each of their employees. And it is so 100% focused on culture and customer service. And, you know, I reflect back on that, you know, looking at that as a teenager and that how that affected me in terms of realizing the vast importance of that, you know, of high level customer service, that the customer is always right, the willingness to go above and beyond to help customers, to help the people that we're working with. It really impacted me. And I know that that's really carried over throughout my career in every area that I've worked in. I think it lacks in some areas, but even back then, that was quite a while ago, it was, you know, the late 80s and early 90s, we didn't have social media like we do today. And so now in today's day and age, with social media, with online reviews, the power of the web, it is so important, more than ever, that companies and teams do their absolute best to provide that level of customer service. And if someone's disappointed, you know, we're not all perfect. We're not on 100% of the time, all the time. But if we make a mistake, having the communication skills, having the customer service ability to communicate, to be transparent, to be real and honest, and to fix those problems, that's really key. Because if we don't have that, nowadays, I don't think we have anything. So those are the things that really changed me, I think, throughout my whole career.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because that's that's my favorite question. That's why we end with it, because I get to hear not just about the first job, but what lessons they've learned and how it's impacted them. So thank you for sharing that. And Heidi, thank you for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
Oh, my email address is henderson@engineeredtaxservices.com. It's very long, but you can also look on LinkedIn is great. I try to be active on LinkedIn and share some relevant articles there. So you can look for Heidi Henderson at Engineered Tax Services. Our website is also a great resource. Please feel free to reach out, LinkedIn, email, or phone anytime. We'd be happy to chat with you.
Fantastic. Thank you. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great day.